What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Facts Boyce, and you're here for another Facts Project review. Today we're going to be covering Is Ted Okay? Issue 2. Now, obviously, if you've been following along, we had a long recorded podcast for the Facts Project with Dave Chisholm to talk about this particular book. And I feel like in the method of sci-fi and how he's basically building this around the world that's drawn within Paranoia of one singular person, namely Ted, working for this company of Ayn-Styne in this world that he doesn't seem to understand, but yet he is trying to figure out. And this similar supporting protagonist, Sarah, who I almost find is almost as much of the lead in the story as anything, as she is, of course, in charge of surveillance for Ted, but yet she is more so empathetic to what is happening to him, because everything that happened to him in the first issue is absolutely crazy. As you can see by the cover, Ted at the end of issue 1 gets into a car accident to where his car catches on fire, and he inevitably just gets engulfed in flames. And you're almost thinking by issue 1 that, like, this is the end of Ted. That's it. You know, like, whatever pretty much happens to him is going to be done. But a couple pages later, you come to find out that Ted is already back to work and that his deadlines are continuously set to be met. And this job has just been increasingly weird. The paranoia that Ted is still going through is almost on 100 scale pace. And Sarah doesn't know what to do about it because, one, she's talked about it in the first issue, how she's seen this happen to somebody very close to her before. And this is why she feels so empathetic towards Ted. And more so, it's more drawn out of the place that she works for as being surveillance, in the place that she's surveilling not only just Ted, but the actual company of Ayn-Styne. So Ted comes to find certain things out in issue 2 that he, of course, has been drawing more conclusions about more and more. Obviously, if you read the first issue, you realize that his life is so routine. He goes through his day. He literally walks the same route home as he does going to work. He stops to feed this one particular cat in an alley. And then when he gets home, he has night terrors every single night. So you can only imagine that Sarah, being this little bit of a good interruption in his life, has caused that routine to get completely upended. But it's necessary. And you come to find out in issue 2, when he's back at work, that certain things are happening at work that are beyond his control. Like there's this one particular moment where he's tapping his mouse because, you know, this is what he does. He's almost like a graphic designer for the propaganda of Ayn-Styne for this company, because these unborn baby soldiers are basically the catalyst for the company itself. It wants to build a military of embryos that they are like looking to just release into the world. So he's tapping onto this mouse, and the mouse breaks, and blood and guts are basically popping out. And he's pretty much covered from wrist to elbow in blood. And he goes to wash his hands, and he's still being surveilled, but he can't wash his hands. And he sees that this small little robot that's basically surveilling him just came through this little trap door in the bathroom. So he decides to like just wiggle his way in through this little like trap door, and comes to find out that the building of Ayn-Styne is a silo with multitudes of robots standing in wait. And his supervisor at that time like sneaks up on him and is basically telling him, you don't really have like the necessary security clearance to be down here, or yet I don't know. Let's just get you cleaned up. And it's almost like they treat certain things as if it's normal when it's absolutely not. And Ted just continues to have to go through his day. So he feels as though at one necessary given moment in time, Sarah got suspended from work for basically infiltrating into Ted's life in issue 1. The whole car crash, following him after work and everything like that. So she is off the books for a little bit. And this is kind of like the perfect opportunity for her to have a conversation with him. And because his life is so routine, when she does interrupt, he snaps. You know, he feeds his cat every day at like a certain spot. He hides in an alley, and he's like, why are you following me? Because she's been doing this day in and day out. And she just wants to have a conversation. He comes to realize that she was the one in the car crash. And necessarily, probably he's thinking the reason that he's back to normal is because she helped him contact the ambulance in order for him to get well again. But he starts to discuss work. He feels that the entire place is basically filled with aliens. Every single person inside of there, whether it's a subordinate or a supervisor or somebody in upper management, are all aliens, or better yet, a robot. And he just wants to get to the bottom of it. And he's almost very careful with his words because he doesn't want to say too much. And necessarily Sarah, as I talked about before, she's very empathetic towards this because she knows somebody very close to her that's going through the same thing. This, of course, leads to, you know, a breakthrough where Ted is like, I just got to continue to figure it out. So the way that he got into the silo the first time, he decides to do the same thing again. This is all while Sarah is now back at work. So she's surveilling his every move. And she is contacting Ayn-Styne to let them know that Ted has basically gotten out. And he's inside the silo itself. And no alarms go off. It's like they're okay with him seeing exactly what's happening. To where it's like, it's not a big situation because we can always bring him back to be like almost under this constant spell of work that he has to go through. It's almost like a brain wipe. Just enter his mindscape, put him back into his routine, and he'll be absolutely fine. So he goes down there and he sees the canisters of these unborn embryos that they're building this military through. It completely blows his mind because it almost proves the theories that he's coming up with. And then it scales down to the character of Noah, who is more so of the technological genius that created this biosphere bubble that this city is pretty much harnessed in because of the nuclear dystopia that's outside of this bubble. And this one particular person, or better yet the company, or better yet the robot, or better yet the alien, depending on what it is, Noah has come to the conclusion of a big meeting that he has to discuss with everybody in the biosphere. And he's taken along a journalist that you saw at the end of issue 1, and you see this again at the end of issue 2, where he feels as though disruption of life brings forth growth amongst the human race. The journalist sees that as a case of mass death, but where he sees it is like a way for them to basically come to the point where they can understand that he can rule with compliance. And then it cuts, and you're realizing to yourself that Ted isn't okay, of course, by the name of the title, but yet he's a part of a greater faction of something else. And I feel as though the combination of Sarah being like a psychological helping hand, and Ted being aware that he's not crazy, are going to make so much more into the series. But I can't wait to talk about this more. Obviously, if you'd like to see the first basically the comprehension of the first issue, you can follow us on the Facts Project and check out the podcast episode of us talking about Is Ted Okay with Dave Chisholm. But I can't wait to see more of this. All right, so I will talk to you guys next time, and we will see you next time on the channel.